Welcome back to Studio One Vintage, home of New Zealand's vintage guitars. My name is Nick Brightwell, and we have ourselves a very special guitar again today, another Gruhn special. This is a 4-aught 21. This was made in 2013 and designed by George Gruhn and ordered into Gruhn Guitars. This guitar has been in the store for a couple of weeks. This guitar belonged to a friend of mine, so I've actually had this guitar at my house for a considerable amount of time and played it a lot. So I have a fond love for this instrument. The reason it's in the store is my friend that owned it just loved himself a triple O authentic that he's picked up and swapped for this. So if you have yourself a nice guitar at home but you want to kind of change to something new, maybe you can come and swap it for this. So let's talk about the details of this guitar. This has a few very special features on it. Probably most special is the neck. Now the neck is standard on the front, but at the back, let's see how much of it you can see. This is a Spanish Cedar neck. So back in the early kind of 2010, 2011, Martin got their hands on Spanish Cedar, which is kind of the original wood they used in the necks of Martins. And so George had a range of guitars ordered with it. So it's a highly figured neck. You can see it's got those lovely rings in it. And it is a T-bar neck, so it doesn't have a truss rod. So it is, if you compare this to your modern Martin, it's probably about the same size, but a more of a C. The modern oval is an oval shape, and this is kind of like a modern C, you would say. But because it has no truss rod, it's a very different animal. And personally, I like guitars without truss rods. I understand that truss rods make the guitar adjustable, but having the rod in the neck, depending on what's happening with the neck, depending on the weather, that rod can be kind of adjusting to that situation. With a no truss rod neck, it's pretty much a solid thing. It doesn't move around. If you change the tuning, the guitar doesn't, the other strings don't go out of tune. So this is perfect for open tunings. That's what I've used it a lot for. But really what this guitar is it is let's just say a more comfortable D28. This is on the spec sheet. If you want the spec sheet, we can send it through to you. On the spec sheet, it says that it's essentially a D21. So let's go over what a D21 or a 21 style guitar is. The rumor is, or the opinion amongst some of the greatest guitar pickers and collectors, is that the D21 style is actually the most desirable. So what that is it's Brazilian rosewood, Adirondack top, but then you have a koa binding, or you can have a tortoiseshell binding depending on your era. So this guitar, Adirondack top, it has Madagascar rosewood back and sides. There's a lot of details here. This back and sides is very desirable as well. If you want to get yourself Madagascar, anything from Martin now, it is very hard. About 10 years ago, they had a lot of these in supply, so you were able to get it quite easily. The nice thing about this particular example is it has a great aroma to it. They say rosewood smells like roses. This one does smell like roses. So we have Madagascar, and it's beautifully figured. Then we have the koa binding, Adirondack top, tortoiseshell thingy-majig, headstock, standard headstock with your open back Waverly Tuners, so that's a nice element. You don't often get Martins that have Waverleys on them, new ones at least. So very, it's you would say not it's a stiffer action on the tuning, but so it has more of a vintage feel to this guitar. But let's put some chords through it. So being a 4-aught, it's a slightly thinner body. So it's kind of like, imagine it's a D28, but not quite as thick. And if you don't know the 4-aught story in a nutshell, in the 30s they made arch tops that had this size body. And in the 60s and 70s, people started ripping the arch tops off these old Martins and re-topping them. And so since then, there was a trend that kind of caught on, and George Gruhn started designing guitars based on the 4-aught size. So, and in his opinion, there was a gap in between the triple O OM and the D28 size. So this is kind of an attempt to fill that gap, and I think it does it very well. As I said, I've had this guitar in my care for a while, play it a lot, very impressed with it. And it's also, I should mention, is it a 14 fret guitar? So you have your full scale length, so it's a very comfortable guitar to play if you're used to 14 frets. So it's a very nice guitar. The strings are just going a bit edge and I just put them on. So if you're interested in getting yourself a Gruhn special guitar with Adirondack top, Madagascar Rosewood back and sides, a Spanish Cedar neck, 134 at the neck, and a very interesting guitar, come on down to Studio One Vintage and check this out. If you've liked our content, please like, subscribe and share. My name is Nick Brightwell. Have yourself a good evening. Take it easy, but take it.